Yes, my Lord and Empress, love to the international family of Rastafari and Black people. This is Honorable Priest Norman Lamont of the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress Church, an educator and the leading priest. And now the time has come for us, for the lion, to tell his own story. And here we are, in the lion's voice, with the Honorable Ras Kwasi. Blessed love, my Lord.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice. Rastafari.
It was the culture of the house, and I was kind of I was unusually bright as a child. I was very bright, but I was also very forward, bright and face to them. Say sometimes my grandma would say bright and out hard and my motor go catch me. So I was always. It started with a song. There's a specific song that I hated. Um, Lord, Lord, wash me and I shall be whiter than snow,
Okay.
whiter than snow, whiter than snow. And the notion that white was good and black was bad. Um,
Okay.
I had to sing that song. I would complain to my teacher, Sabbath school teacher, Miss Bailey, and she would laugh, but she would make conversations out of it. Um, so there was a consciousness that I was also blacker than the rest, I would say. My
Okay.
skin was darker than most of my
Yeah.
cousins.
Yes.
Um, I was also darker skinned than most of the children in the community. So they would say things like, oh, you're black, but you're pretty, or what a pretty black girl. You know, the interesting thing is that Rastafari, for me, crept in through my love of literature. One of my favorite brethren in the community was a Rastafari man who was a loner, but he was
Yes.
always reading, and he'd lend me books sometimes, or he'd talk. He'd call me Little Doggy, and we'd talk. And then there was this other Rastafari man who was my cousin's father. Um, they He was married to one of my older cousins, and the kindest person I know up to today. May his soul rest in peace. His funeral made the news in Jamaica because they built him a kind of mausoleum, one of the biggest ones I've seen, beautifully done. But he deserved every bit of it because he was a consummate community man,
Okay.
always giving. Somebody passes, he turns up and he's just digging grave, serving food and drinks. He was always a giver. And at the actual party, I remember my first task was to issue the tickets for the artist because it was a 500 only people show, I believe, and every artist performing was being given 2 guest passes because it was really limited.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his name, Mr. G's Corno, was it Goofy? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Goofy came, picked up his 2 passes, opened the envelope, realized it was two, and just fling back the 2 pass them palm me like him upset that, oh yeah, give big man this. And I don't know what happened to me. I ran him down. And I remember people saying, what are you doing? But I just thought that he was so out of order and out of place. And he laughed because like I tell you, I was really tiny, and it was a joke, but it was also my entry into industry and deciding, say, no artist now gonna deal with me. So yeah, Edna is, I think, one of the most important institutions in the Caribbean, definitely in Jamaica. If we're going to say that reggae is what it is for Jamaica, if we're going to say that reggae has built an ecosystem, and when we talk about ecosystem, it might sound like we're behaving right, and it really, an ecosystem is really all the players involved. So from the creatives, the artists, the producers, the engineers, the publishers, the publicists, the man who has sell the can on the roadside after a party, the man who has set up the stage, all of you make up an ecosystem. So it's a big system, it's
Big.
a big, big network. It's not just who you see on stage that
No.
makes up this industry. So I think if Jamaica really is going to say that a reggae put Jamaica on top, then Edna becomes the most important space for development. A national strategy ought to be investment in music or investment in the creative industries. In the same way, when I see a lot of older brethren who are in the UK were born like in the 50s, most of them are two things: electricians and plumbers, because at that time England was doing those things and that's what they wanted. So that's what they trained. And we don't need necessarily the research institutions are always going to provide research. But the truth is that what we need are more of a polytechnic model where we're teaching people a skill. So so people are naturally talented. Them can sing, you can train the voice. They can't necessarily write, but you can train them to write. And they're
Mm.
naturally lyrical, just in the way Jamaican special. So you can, there is a craft that you can teach and that is being taught. So Edna is doing its job in terms of preparing the musicians, the performers, the creatives. There are other institutions. I'm not at Edna now, I'm at UTech. And my
Yeah.
dream is that UTech is offering something like audio engineering because that is a lack in the industry. So when you look at the needs, and UTech is a STEM university, so how do you employ technology to advance industry is where, but that are my kind of big vision for, not a unique vision because we talk about this with brethren in the industry all the time. You know, in the way that I think reggae was a gift to Jamaica, I think Rastafari was a gift to the Caribbean in terms of the only, and I don't even like to call it religion, but let's say it's like the only religion that rose up post slavery, post colonial offering. And where does it come from? It comes from the underbelly of Jamaica, the rejects, people living on the edge, people having nowhere to live, but somehow reading enough to question the Western Bible that we got. Um, so I've always had a lot of respect for that questioning. I also believe if God made us in his own likeness, then I'm black, so he must be too. So the notion of a black God was always appealing, even while I was in church reading the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. So I wanted to say this when it comes to certain Rastafari traditions.
Hmm.
I hate to see traditions die.
Yes.
And even though Rastafari manifests itself in different ways now, that's why we have to be grateful for this program, grateful for research being done by people in academia. Because sometimes when I look around, you wonder, children 100 years later know what it was, where it's
Yes.
coming from? So Mama Fire, rest her soul, someone like Mama Fire kind of epitomize the traditional Rasta woman, um, even more so than Sister Mitzi, who is my Kingstonian Rasta woman for me.
Yes.
Um, but it is Sister Walletti who is me say is the one up north, who is really a real Rasta woman.
Yeah.
So having these women who hold the tradition sacred, so that young women coming up can understand. You don't have to choose it, but this is what it is. All right. So I was saying, Kwasi, that on my screen is integrated marketing communications expert, because we're no longer separating public relations, advertising, promotions as different areas of market, but an integrated approach.
Okay.
So, marketing in this regard, if you were to explain to somebody, is really the umbrella term that really looks on how you sell your product and there is a strategy. Um, Public relations once upon a time referred to free press. It's no longer free press. And it really is strategic communication with our publics.
Okay.
And that's really what public relations is. So public relations turns up in organizations in different kinds of ways. You could hear somebody is a corporate communications manager. That's PR. A publicist is doing PR. Public relations manager is the most common term. But these days, a public relations person is doing a little bit of everything as digital media has changed. There was a time when we were just using traditional media, that's the only thing. What was different is that traditional media was controlled by those who owned it. And so the public relations practitioner at the time had to build relationships. You had to build relationships to get your product out there. Nowadays, with digital media, with social media in particular, the artist is able to take information and just share it to its own publics without any help from anyone. There are a couple of things. If you come to me and say that you want a publicist, I start from the scratch. Who are you? Who is the Just Match Kwasi? What drives you? What does your bio look like? So we can rewrite that together based on the questions you respond to. How does what you present of yourself in your photos, does that represent what you say you are in your bios? So all of that for me is connected and not different. Have you done shows that you captured some videos of? So when we're putting your electronic press kit EPK together, you have all of those to present a self. So the product is really the core, is where we start from.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice. Well, Haile Selassie the first is the Almighty, and he has manifested himself in physical form and was born as Ras Tafari Enterprises. And he was crowned by his side with Empress Menen. So wait, nobody now big up the natural woman them. Mother Earth, mother of all the earth's children. Well, big up all the woman with the natural hair, natural body, natural skin care, natural breast, natural brown or wearing as I am nothing fake will be there. Well, big up all the woman with the natural hair, natural body, natural skin care, natural breast, natural brown or wearing as I am nothing fake will be there. Well, big up all the woman with the pretty black skin, and inna the ear you no join the bleaching, and inna the ear you proud of your melanin. Never giving you up to try something. The Almighty I bless you with your shape, bless you with the smile when you put on your face, bless you with the wine when you got in your waist. Real African, look how she a move to the bass. Take time, slow wine now. Take time and slow wine now. Speed up, hand by your knee up and speed up now.
What do you have to tell the people about Ras Tafari?
Light to the world. The king of kings and the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. Elected himself, first rightful ruler. Hey yo, yeah. Hail them high, hail the black king, born the 23rd of July. So tell them guy, who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your night. From ancient time, them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them comes without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill the lion will come conquer Judah tribe. Go through tribulation, and your nice strive, see sufferation, and your nice still rise. That's why we tell them in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come to tell them in a Toronto, straight at it. Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chasmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man, creative industry attorney. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Lion Talk. Welcome to Lion Talk and welcome to the Lion Voice Network. We are in Women's History Month and now we are going to shine the light on Black woman of the earth, Empress Menen, and our Rastafari daughters. It's so important for I and I to take time and just appreciate love the feminine energy. This audience is about 75% male, so I overstand, but I give thanks for my 25% female, and those who have been with us for a long time will know at one time we were 95% male, and last year we did do the Empress Menen celebration panel, and we did the month, and we were able to raise to 25. So hopefully we can get closer to 50%, so that we balance. I love balance. I have a lot of sistren, and today I'm going to be reasoning with one of I and I's sistren, and I've known this sistren for a long time. I would say over a decade now, because I met this sister in 2013. So I've known this sister over a decade, and I've seen the changes, the evolution. You know, when I met this sister, she was a literal ballad and not one drop of hair, I tell you. And now you will see the magnificence of the crowd and the whole transformation. And I want to have a very important discussion. We're just coming out of Black History Month, Reggae Month, and the industry, the Rastafari reggae music industry. I'm calling it because there is a music industry, there is reggae, but then I feel we need to have a Rastafari music ecosystem. I'm chanting for that sound because having worked in the music industry, I don't feel compelled to go integrate into women's Siagwan over there. So I'm going to be honest, and we're going to talk about that today with my guests. I feel we need to build our own ecosystem. And if you can have an idea, you look at, the gospel music ecosystem is not really a mainstream. They have their own vibration going on. You have other examples of subgenres that really are not a part of the mainstream kind of functioning, but they have vibrant multi-million-dollar business going on within their thing. So I think we need, as Rastafari, to kind of conceptualize the music industry in that way. And my guest is someone who is very grounded in the Jamaica music industry. She's a pillar when it comes on to the music industry, the creative industry. It's a person who is well connected. I talk about I'm on superpower being the network. This sister of that same superpower. Our network is vast, and I've tested it. So, I'm very excited to have the conversation or the conversation. And the conversation we're going to have is surrounding marketing, publishing, the difference. Because most of I and I just dip on the internet and it's like we're tread water and we're not really going nowhere because there's no marketing plan. You have a song come out and then you jump up on the internet, post it in a 3 group and, or 300 group, and then that's it. So we want to help our businesses, our young people get vibrant. We also want to hear about a journey, So Lion Pride, please help I
to welcome a royal daughter. And His Majesty called his daughter, and I don't know what happened, but we're going to find out. A royal daughter of Africa, and my sister, Coleen Douglas. Welcome.
Thank you, Kwasi. Give thanks.
Yes. I'm going to try not to laugh too much in this
Oh, really?
sister.
I'm known as a joker too?
No, but I'm a sister. So we share so much joy over the years, you know. So if you see me so joyful during this reason, that is why. But we're going to get to business. And as a tradition here on the Lion Voice network, I'm going to ask the I to step into our iretical time machine and to take us to the moment of the I birth and set the context. You know, we want to know, what is the I origin story? Where were you born? What parish? What was it like growing up? Give us the whole settings.
That's interesting. No, you send me to think. I'm a product of the parish of Clarendon. For those who are non-Jamaicans, Clarendon is central Jamaica. What it means is that we have more rivers and mountains, less sea, if any at all. The sea we have is fishing village, really, down on the flat. But I was born in Chapelton, Clarendon, at the Chapelton Hospital. I also grew up in a community called Blackwoods, that's beyond Moko. I know Moko is a name that you hear, and what you hear is not necessarily what Moko is. Moko is bauxite country, so the nice housing stock, good roads, courtesy of the bauxite company, in as much as we might have issues with that. So it's not hard to get to. I went to Edwin Allen first and then Clarendon College for sixth form. So I've given you a little bit of my journey from just into high school. I don't know why I skipped over primary school, but I'm too old to go to that part of it.
but just stick a pin, because for those who didn't grow up in Jamaica, myself included, you know, give us a picture, paint a picture of rural Jamaican life. My father's from Clarendon, you know, my father's from Berrydale, which is right outside of Porus. So
I think rural life is different everywhere. So I can tell you my rural life. My grandfather was a farmer. The farm wasn't where we lived. He had to travel to the farm. Was quite a distance. Right now I would not walk there. It's a big hike if I were to. So we would get a drive halfway down the hill. My uncle would drop us halfway down the hill. Then there's a journey across the river. We actually crossed 2 rivers to get to the farm. But when you get there, you think, wow. So we did have days when we went to the river and it was a full-on day. Like full-on, you're going to cook by the river, you're washing clothes, everything that was harder to wash, like mats and so forth, would be washed. In traditional washing way, you're beating it on stones, then making them dry on stones. Okay. We would also pick limes, because he had limes, oranges, little bit of ackee, little bit of chocolate. So those things we would help with. So I remember the lime thing was painful. I know why lime expensive. That picking lime business, I've done it. Okay. But I experienced some joys. I think I went through West Indian history in high school because of having that farm experience, because my grandfather made sugar. And we would watch the mules, not horses. The mules or donkeys take the thing around like a press and the cane juice, and then it comes into what we call liquor. The men would drink it that way without any addition in there. And then the sugar would set. So the wet sugar was soft. You could sell it in cakes or balls. I also had Friday duties at home. So he would carry the chocolate is put on a kind of flat concrete. It would dry. Then one of my bigger cousins would parch it. My job was to beat it with the mortar. So that's a part of our rural life where we all had some kind of duties, but your duties were also related to what your mother, father, in my case, my grandparents. I wasn't raised by my parents, I was raised by my father's parents. My
Okay.
grandmother was a school teacher.
Okay.
Actually, my four aunts were also school teachers,
Okay.
whilst my, yeah. So,
That
so
explains some of the brilliance that you expound, because I'm thinking rural Jamaica, but people would think you're born and grow up town Jamaica, in terms of
funny.
your
Well, we always had a challenge, as much as possible to speak. So my grandfather was obsessed with Shakespeare's Hamlet. As a matter of fact, there was a family bus called Hamlet as a result. So
okay.
we were always told, or we were always shown the importance of higher education. My
Okay.
aunts all went to college, so I was in a household where I'm not the first one to have gone university. I might have been the first one from that household to go to UE, University of the West Indies, because we grew up in an Adventist home. So the natural trajectory would have been go to Mandeville and you go to West Indies College at the time. No, not Northern Caribbean University,
Okay.
NCU. As a matter of fact, I have an older cousin, Miss Shirley, who calls me Tony, because from I was young, I just wanted to come to Kingston. So, so she refers to me as a Tony.
Okay.
Um, I came to Kingston in 96, but I want to respond to your question a little bit more specifically. So
Okay.
my country was not specific. My grandfather would also ride a donkey. What I loved about my grandfather is thoughtfulness for animals,
Mm.
because he would come off the donkey if he thought the donkey was tired. He's unloading the donkey, allowing donkey to rest, have some water. Then when he gets home, the first thing is unloading the donkey, taking off the hampers. Then the donkey got a bucket of water. We had this myth that if you drank donkey water, you could run fast. So we would drink the water after the donkey, stupid children we were. Nothing
Wow.
about hygiene, just the notion that you're gonna run
Strong
fast.
immune system, though. Your immune system's supposed to strong. I
It's
mean,
very strong. So yes, the donkey story, but it was, I mentioned the donkey because the donkey is hardworking, also
yes,
the burden bearer of
yes,
animals.
yes.
But it's the way my grandfather was with his donkeys. Very, very kind, very, very thoughtful. I mean, there was a tradition at home. I was sharing with a friend just last week that my grandfather always took his hat off upon entry to the dining room. His seat would always be at the head of the table. It was very traditional. He would also have his food, protein in one, starch in another, veg in another, and the table is set. So my grandmother dutifully did this every day. And we would kind of laze around because my grandfather would now serve himself on his plate. Sometimes it offered him more than one time serving, depending on the size portions. But we would wait around to get some of the things he was eating, and he would always share. Um, there was something in the community. So I played netball for my sports club. So there
Okay.
was a sports club down the road, a football field, cricket. So we had those kinds of community gatherings. I think the biggest community gathering for us was always a church.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know if you know much about Adventist, but my Adventist home was you wake up in the morning at 5, or you were woken up if you don't get up. My
Okay.
grandmother would knock the door, and we all had to go to the dining room around the table. It was like a 8-seater table. Or was it probably a 12-seater? Because it was an extended family home. My
Okay.
grandparents, my aunts, my uncle, my auntie with husband, my uncle with wife. So we had 11 children in that household.
Yeah. So this is not
So
a wealthy. This is not a wealthy household. This is middle class, working class.
yeah,
Um.
I would say middle class, working class.
Yes.
Perhaps to some in the community, it's wealthy,
Okay.
just based on, but it was working class home.
Yes.
Um, Yeah, so we would start our day with worship. There was always family worship. Adventists go with Ellen G. White's teachings. We
Mm.
also had a book that we were given for Sabbath school, the younger ones. The adults also had a quarterly. So devotions were specific. We sang a hymn from the hymnal. We went into the lesson. We were children, we went around in a circle and you had to recite a memory verse. So there was also, and my cousin Bobby is a trip. He would just say, Jesus wept. John 3 verse, and he just said, Jesus wept. And that was the end of his. And then my grandmother would make it fun because we would have discussions about what we read or trying to explain different sections of the Bible. But then we would also be able to do what we call sentence prayer, like on Friday night when it's Vespers. So worship is longer because we had this book called Uncle Arthur's Bedtime Stories, which really told, my favorite story was the story of the two Carolines. Caroline would she was troublesome and bad at home, but at school she was the best student. One day the teacher came home and discovered her. And the lesson was just, you have to be your authentic self and be kind and good everywhere you go. So that was really my favorite story in the Uncle Arthur's series. But we would have sentence prayers. So my grandmother would say, she opens the prayer, and I would say, for instance, thank you for the food. Thank you for providing for us with light and water. My brother, who we thought was very greedy, Joel, would say, and thank you for food. And we bust out a laugh and have to start all over again. So worship was fun for the most part. And
Yes.
yeah, it was a kind of expectation that you have to get up at 5 o'clock. And
Did
after
you
worship, everybody got to working, doing your respective morning duties.
were you thinking about this Christ concept in the Seventh Day Adventists? Is that emphasized, or is it just more the traditions? And were you thinking about the divinity in man as a little girl coming up, or was it more just this is the culture of the house and these things?
It was the culture of the house, and back, I was kind of I was unusually bright as a child. I was very bright, but I was also very forward, bright and face to them. Say sometimes my grandmother would say bright and out hard and my motor go catch me. So I was always. It started with a song. There's a specific song that I hated. Um, Lord, Lord, wash me and I shall be whiter than snow,
Okay.
whiter than snow, whiter than snow. And the notion that white was good and black was bad.
Okay.
I had to sing that song. I would complain to my teacher, Sabbath school teacher, Miss Bailey, and she would laugh, but she would make conversations out of it. Um, so there was a consciousness that I was also blacker than the rest, I would say. My
Okay.
skin was darker than most of my
Yeah.
cousins.
Yes.
Um, I was also darker skinned than most of the children in the community. So they would say things like, oh, you're black, but you're pretty, or what a pretty black girl. There were these distinctions. Okay, so okay. It's not even like I was treated different from any other young child. It was that being so dark was not associated with beautiful. I knew from early that there was something, and my grandfather would explain how black women were defined in order to make us slaves or make our ancestors, to enslave our ancestors. We had to be known as inferior. So the description of the black woman in history books he would share would not have you feeling like you were female or woman at all. So there were things my aunt would make me do. I was Miss Blackwoods. I was put in beauty contest almost like a defiance. Let us see what happens when you go on stage. There were times when people would say things. I remember coming back from Barbados and went home, and we were at a funeral, and somebody said, You look good though. And I said, thank you. And he said, you get blacker though. But by then I was a 19-year-old, very confident, very comfortable in my skin because what Huey did for me, Clinton Hutton, Professor Clinton Hutton, picked on me in class one day. We were doing a course called Ideas of God and Humanity. And he looked up and he said, boy, your skin black, so tell it purple. It's beautiful. And I never forgot because it was a compliment from a stranger. It was a compliment from a respected professor. And it just meant a lot to me. And I felt different in my skin. I think that year I went and entered Miss Jamaica, Miss Clarendon Festival Queen.
Okay. Word, sound, and power. So, family, you see that, what words can do. Here, my problem with this whole scenario. I heard you sing, and I never know you can sing, and you
I
have a
grew up
sing.
Adventist though. It's like hand in hand.
No, not like them something. But all right, I'm joking. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, but it's interesting you say that because in Adventist homes there is a singing tradition.
Okay,
Everybody is singing, and we believe in harmonizing. So there is a thing about pretty voices. So I don't do solos. I don't think that I have a strong solo voice. But you put me with some good harmony, I can carry the melody. I'm a good second soprano, I think. So
okay.
so but it was a tradition growing up where our fun games was singing. Um, I have the interesting thing is that Rastafari for me crept in through my love of literature. One of my favorite brethren in the community was a Rastafari man who was a loner, but he was
Yes.
always reading and he'd lend me books sometimes or he'd talk. He'd call me Little Doggy and we'd talk. And then there was this other Rastafari man who was my cousin's father. Um, he was married to one of my older cousins and the kindest person I know up to today. May his soul rest in peace. His funeral made the news in Jamaica because they built him a kind of mausoleum, one of the biggest ones I've seen, beautifully done. But he deserved every bit of it because he was a consummate community man.
Okay.
Always giving. Somebody passes, he turns up and he's just digging grave, serving food and drinks. He was always a giver. Um, so it was I said to
Stick a
you
pin
that.
right there. Stick a pin because you mentioned two Rastafari brethren on my channel. I want the brethren to listen keenly because the levity that you have expressed at these brethren. I like to celebrate those unknown races in the rural communities, the inner city communities that are just living. And, you never know that there will be a little girl that will grow up to be a Coleen Douglas that is observing, that is being impacted. I've had so many guests that talk about their journey to Rastafari, that talk about these unknown, unnamed races who were pillars in their community.
Well, we can name him. His name was
Okay.
Aston Shirley. They called him
Okay.
One Ear Body.
Okay.
And One because he drove a truck with his one leg. And
Wow.
you want to see him down Spur Tree. Mass. Yeah, sometime him lean over with him hand and I was amazed when I was older because I was always close to him. Um, So, and the truth is, by the time I got interested in boyfriend, so to speak, I was already 18, and it was a Rasta man.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and it was interesting only because of the difference and of the ideas of God, the ideas of equal rights, justice, and I was fully into those kinds of conversation. But the truth is, my aunt was going to Bethlehem Teachers College, my youngest aunt, and she would take home these books, To Kill a Mockingbird, all of the books, Jane Eyre, that I was excited about. And she had Brother Man, Roger
Mm.
Mason's Brother Man. And so I met another Rasta man in that particular book. I didn't understand a lot of it, but what I knew at that time, I think I may have been 11 when I read Brother Man first. at that time, what I was fascinated by was the chorus in the lane. The people, they almost kind of mob and that kind of feature that I've come to love in literature. But yes, there was a man who was of God, who was like God, who was God himself, but poor. And that has stuck with me for years when I think of Rastafari. The the choice, the conscious choice to remain humble, to remain connected to earth, and to help all you can help. So that was the brother man for me, the do-gooder, the do-gooder with very little means, but was still powerful in all of that. Um, and then I don't know how I read Rastafari story now, but let me give you anyway. Then there was music. There was music for years. I liked Dreamland. I
Yes.
don't know. Before Bob Marley passed, there was not a consciousness in my household for Bob Marley. We did not play Shabarangs, Ting-a-ling-a-ling, and a lot of because we had a record, like the record that looks like a big dresser.
Yes, yes, the
Oh,
vinyl. Yes.
the vinyl. So we would, Sundays were fun days because we would play our vinyl. And I remember
You
specifically
play
Shabba.
Shabba in the house, in a Adventist house?
Yes, my auntie still would. She was the rebel, but we did. And my grandparents were strict, but they weren't restricting you from being children. And I
Yes.
used to love to dance, and she like, we know where you're gonna become because of how I used to behave when I hear Shabba. But there were also other songs. There was a old Bunny Wailer singing Dreamland.
Yes.
I
Classic.
didn't. I wasn't first introduced to Dreamland, Marcia Griffith's version of Dreamland. It was Bunny.
Yes.
I
That's a
always felt
classic.
like the reggae for me at the time was very close to hymns. Like it could put you in the same mood that the hymns put you in. It felt
Yes.
prayerful. It felt like you could reflect on it. And so I was very interested in music by the time I got to high school. I understood when Nelson Mandela came to Jamaica. I was very conscious because of my grandfather's own interest in global affairs. I was very conscious of what reggae music was doing for the global dialogue on equal rights and justice. So from early, I understood that. I understood what it meant for Jamaica and our fight with the South Africans on apartheid. And I liked South Africa because of their singing too. So the artists in South Africa,
No one can harmonize like the South Africans.
except the Adventists. But
Okay.
I dare say the Adventists can challenge them any day.
Okay.
So my
Okay.
connection to that is the Adventist harmony.
Okay.
But yeah, I think reggae for me was the freedom sound, was the sound of justice. So by the time I came to Kingston in 96 for university, I wanted to meet everybody. I wanted to meet Yellow Man because me they love Yellow Man, Zungu Zungu. And because I thought it was such a stupid song, but it was such a catchy song.
Yeah.
Zungu 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 Zang. It's like it
Yeah.
has a hook that is, you can't miss it.
Yes.
I felt like I journeyed with Buju because I danced to Buju's Look How You're Cute for
Yes.
Festival Queen. I kind of did a combination of Maya Angelou's Phenomenal Woman and broke out into Buju's Look How You're Cute after. But,
Boss the place. I know you boss the place with that. No.
Yuan Simpson was my coach for talent. He was my talent coach, and he just wanted me to do a mix of everything that I was. So we started with that song, that song, you don't have to sneak in the dark, that song,
Yes.
just
Yes.
come on into my room, that
Mhm.
song. So we started with that song, and then I come out of it into, why am I crying over this man like some overly emotional little girl? I am woman, and went into the Maya Angelou's Phenomenal Woman, and
Okay.
then turn into patois to Buju's Look How You're Cute. So I was connected to Buju's dancehall era, And when Buju changed with Till Shiloh, I was like, wow, there is a
Yes.
place that the music can take you that is amazing.
Yes.
So I was a Buju
Someone
fan.
needs to study that era of Jamaica, that era of of the Bojo transition, the Garnet Silk, that whole wave. Somebody needs to do a
I'm so
academic
glad you
study.
mentioned Garnet
Yeah.
because at CC, yes,
Mhm.
Safari, I can verify, but the Clarendon College had this thing called I Stedford, and I may have been in sixth form, lower six though. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it was Garnet and it was Yasus. I remember Yasus more, but Garnet was popular and he was talking about Garnet a lot. And he was talking about the show, which was Rebel Salute. So yeah, Rebel Salute was advertised at the
Yeah.
school that they were having. I think they were having it at fairs in Mandeville. And we had connections in Mandeville. I had a crew. I had an Adventist crew in sixth form, straight away. Stuart
Mhm.
Douglas Lumley crew, because we were the only Adventists in this space. And we know we could go to Georgette's aunt, Auntie Marie, and spend a weekend, but you could also go spend the weekend and T-Fort or show, nobody. So, but so Rebel Salute also was up on my radar. So when we reach a UM, I now miss no salute. Yeah,
Okay.
jumping here with other people. And I was meeting people in reggae industry because I wanted to meet everybody when I'm in town. Like, you're in town, so yeah, man, you can go meet so and so.
Yes.
So
And
music,
for my viewers, this sister know everybody. Sometimes people say that, but she
not
really
quite.
know. In Jamaica, in the Jamaica music space, a very valuable cultural asset. I met her during the Jamaica Music Conference when she was working at Edna. We'll get there. And I want to set the context for the
Okay.
reasoning that we're having so that you're not just a talking head. You know what I mean? That people know
Yeah, yes, yeah.
that you're rooted in the culture. Where did this love for the culture come from? Because yeah, I really love the culture. Rastafari called the eye from a young age, and we're gonna get to that. But and this is also a schoolmate of Kadamari Knife. We want to hear the Yui story then, uh,
Mhm.
because I wasn't there, but Yui have a special place in
Let's
my
just
heart.
be clear.
Yes.
Knife is a tailor man.
Okay.
Tailor, right? Like Taylor Hall of
Yes.
different beasts them over there. So Taylor and Chancellor Mans them
Yes.
completely different. I
Okay.
was actually very intimidated. I found Knife's presence intimidating. He
Okay.
was always so serious, always very sharp in
Yeah.
his Knife was the perfect name, I think. I lived on the Stush Hall. They used to call my hall Sandals Mona. So I
Okay.
lived on Preston while my friends lived at Taylor. So because my friends were on Taylor Hall, I was on Taylor every day.
Okay.
Because Taylor is also in the center of the campus.
Yes.
So when
Yes.
I leave Preston, we're way down at bottom of bowl. I would not go back down to Preston until end of day because my best friend was on Taylor. All my classmates who were at UA were on Taylor. So yes, I knew Knife. I knew Knife as a leader actually. I saw him as a leader. I actually also saw him as a protector because those days they used to rag at you. I was Yogi. So
Yes.
Knife probably still call me Yogi. He's one of the few people who still refer to me as Yogi. And we'd laugh. And I was very tiny, like I was 90 pounds. I was 5'1". So I was very small, but I was also very loud. Like
Yes.
loud. So
It's
when I
good that
say
you're
loud, I mean
self-aware. Yes, you're self-aware
yeah,
of your.
man. I mean, as in, I was fully involved in my social life on campus.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I would have met Knife because he was fully involved in social life. He was at all the matches. When I my first meet, I remember Knife and I remember Tepe from Taylor because the Preston girls were all in a line and they walked and they kind of looking at you. And what I remember about Tepe was stopping. what ugly girls live on Preston. And in that moment, I knew, oh, they're just being cheeky because none of us here are not ugly girls. What ugly girls live on Preston? And then he stops right where I was, and they get ugly as you go down the line. And I giggled because I found it funny. I'm like, they think we're idiots, you know? But the truth is, beyond there was something, and I would probably tell you, because then I hear it from the my friends who were Chancellorite or Taylorites. They thought we were kind of soft girls, the girls who were the girls you want to protect because them are come from country, them very
Okay.
decent. When I say loud, I meant I was into sports, I was into the arts, but
Yes.
I wasn't exposed. And I think people like a knife was very conscious and aware of that.
Yes.
So there were brothers on campus who I always felt safe around. In as much as campus wasn't necessarily safe, I felt very safe.
Okay. And I want to again just point out Livity too, because I have a lot of young brethren, viewers, around the world, and they write in and say how this channel give them strength. But I want them to realize the livity that you have, how it impacts the people that you don't even maybe recognize that you're impacting, creating these safe spaces, and this is why, I born this kind of Rastafari Gallus mentality, because I want our brethren to.
Well, we're not going to talk about them something then, because not while I was on campus. That's not the best time to talk about. I will just say Rastafari brethren were young.
Okay,
The
the reality,
youthful exuberance.
the reality.
What I can say though, I knew from them days that it was important to grow what you eat. He's a true um, preacher of that and lived it.
Yeah, man.
Um,
To this
so
day.
they were, yeah, he really, really lived that even
Yeah,
while there. And remember, I was on campus at a time when Mortimer Plano was on campus, but
yes,
I never checked on Plano. I actually wasn't conscious of anything beyond
yes.
Garvey on campus. I
Okay.
was just consumed between netball, football, Huey Corral, UDAS, the Dramatic Art Society. Just over by Philip Sherlock was my yard and under the tree with the people them
Yes.
who write poems. So
Okay. So you're always a creative. You're a consummate creative.
yeah, man, and Preston Hall was also the type of hall that attracted creatives.
Okay.
The head of NDTC now is a Prestonite. The One of the coaches at JCDC who manages Coral, Gregory, he is a Prestonite. So a lot of us who were creatives went to Preston.
Okay.
We kind of went to Preston, and Preston really nurtured that. It was also a new space, so we had an opportunity to create the songs, to create the kind of ethos the hall now has. Is because the 96 group, we were the first set of pressers, they called us, not freshers, but the first set of
Yes. Yes.
pressers. um, Campus life was probably UWI campus, Mona in particular. Well, I have very fond memories. They were perhaps my happiest years, I can comfortably say. And I tell people, young people all the time, when you're at university, it's really the time to just do everything that you can. Some of us from country never see pool yet, never see tennis court. So there were a lot of things that were there that we never had before.
Yes.
So
Yes.
UWI really, I think I grew up at UWI. Even when I went to Kville, it was a different version of me. Interestingly, Kville introduced me to a different set of Rastafari. Sizzler was hot then.
Okay. Where's
And
Cable? Where's
oh,
Cable?
Barbados, I'm so sorry. So
Oh,
I did
sorry.
my final year at UWI Barbados,
Okay.
Kville
Okay.
campus.
Okay.
It was meant to be one semester, but the teacher didn't like you and asked Mona if I could stay. Plus, I was also playing football for the Kville at that time. But yeah, it was when I going into the town of Bridgetown. There was Rastafari. Sizzler was really hot in Barbados. It
Yes.
was like 98. Some of Sizzler tracks were banned, not because of the lyrics, but because of the behavior that the songs kind of pulled out of them. People would be knocking
Okay.
walls, mashing up things. Um, so there was, and I used to laugh at Barbados because I thought the only hill is really the mound I want to play cricket pond. And so every Rastafari you meet just ask you if you're Jagan and them won't come and they would talk about the hills. So I was hearing about a culture of Rastafari from non-Jamaicans for a long
Okay.
time. Um, yeah, so came back to Jamaica and somehow just got thrown into media, almost like I did literatures in English as my first degree, so the intention was to go and teach as a family
Yes.
tradition. I was
Yes.
very comfortable going in the classroom, but somehow I, Barrington Levy, Sharon Burke, happened to have come to my house and I did think Barrington out of because him did a bun herb. And I said, if you come in here, bun herb. And I like Barrington because he's also from Clarendon.
Yes. Yes.
And he laughed and he thought I was a little forward, you know. But
And
then,
that's one of your defining characteristics. Even when I met
but
your
I'm a little
sister, if
forward.
whatever's on her mind is going to be made known, and she's moving with a sternness. This kind of smiley Colleen is a new addition, because she's very business, very professional, put together. You know what I mean? And we've seen the softening over the years, and we'll talk about that. But continue about the Barrington
Yes,
and
so
Burke
we
story.
did that, and Robert Livingston was managing Shaggy at the time, and Shaggy
Yes.
went platinum, and he wanted somebody locally to manage to do some PR. And I remember Sharon saying, PR, and I'm like, I was PR general at high school, so I didn't know about networking and engaging people. So I said, well, to that extent, yes, for sure. I was on committees on campus. I was on hall committee, and I was doing PR related stuff in as much as it wasn't a study. Um, yes, so I said yes. I said yes. They told me that I don't have to worry because there's somebody in New York who is going to come down and help. Her name, Colleen Samuels. Everybody know Colleen. So yeah, I met Colleen. Me and Colleen shared room actually. And at the actual party, I remember my first task was to issue the tickets for the artist because it was a 500 only people show, I believe, and every artist performing was being given 2 guest passes because it was really limited.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his name, Mr. G's Corno, was it Goofy? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Goofy came, picked up his 2 passes, opened the envelope, realized it was 2, and just fling back a 2 pass them palm me like him upset that, oh yeah, give big man this. And I don't know what happened to me. I ran him down. And I remember people saying, what are you doing? But I just thought that he was so out of order and out of place. And he laughed because like I tell you, I was really tiny. And it was a joke, but it was also my entry into industry and deciding say no artist not gonna deal with me so. Because they will know that they can't deal with me so. There were decisions I made in that moment that I knew that if I yes I'm gonna do work,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be the serious girl.
Yes.
So I went to the event, and my responsibility at the event was to do media management. Media management, for those who are unaware of what happens backstage, is really you're engaging with media and artists, finding out from media who they want to interview, setting up those interviews so that there is some order. Media would also come and ask for various things. They want to see what the run is like. They'll tell you who they want to talk to. Sometimes it was a sponsor. Paula Ann Porter and Judith Bodley were there, from RGR. I remember Judith
Big
specifically.
up Judith Bodley, who me find out say I'm my family too. Who
Oh,
continue?
really?
Yes,
So
yes.
Judith Bodley called me, and Judith had a voice that sounds similar to what I heard from Paula on air. So I thought it was Paula calling me, but she said I'm Judith Bodley. She was like a programs manager for RGR 94 FM, and she did mention, Paula, they were talking about how I engage press. They were impressed with how I engage press and if I was interested in radio production. She's inviting me to come and do production at 94 FM. Me don't know what that mean, but I say yes first and figure it out after all the time. So I said yes, and at the time, Neville Willoughby was on the boards mainly, so Uncle Neville taught me how to manage the board and pay attention to playing your music, doing your ads. All of those things was part of the training. Dennis Howard came in for sessions on production. Yeah, and in 2 weeks, I was producing the shows in the evening time, but also got a chance to do the worst shift on earth, the graveyard shift, the midnight to 5 in the morning.
Yes, yes.
So I kind of got thrown into media, but just by chance. But also what I would say to young people, it was by chance, but it was always having a standard. So in these days when we have the notion of personal brand, and you think that personal brand means how pretty you look on social media, it is what you do. Personal brand is really what is it that you offer to the world. Are you dependable? Are you reliable? And I think that was what happened with me, and that's how I got that job. So a part of my own brand has really become that you can depend on me. If I
That is
say that
correct.
I'm going to do it, then it's done.
I
And
can vouch for that. I can vouch for that, family. I tell you, I will continue.
I mean, there are times when we fall off, but my
No,
commitment is always
yes,
true.
yes.
Um,
More often than not, you deliver what you say you're going to deliver.
Yeah, and I remember my high school reports. There was always a common word from first to sixth form that Coleen Douglas is a conscientious student. Me never know the meaning of conscientious until I start seeing it on my reports a lot. So that I've kind of carried in terms of what you carry to the professional space. And my life in music, I was telling you the story of art. So I worked at RGR for a couple of years, not as full time. There was one time when it was my only job, but I was never a full time staff. Doing from hotline to the morning show, the evening shows were my staple. To people finding me my tastiness was all of a sudden attractive. So they thought, I think you could do good reviews. So I would go to the movies, come back, do the reviews. At the time, Miss Kitty was on, then Wild Child. So I would have a slot where I was coming on to do book reviews, do movie reviews. And I would also review shows. And one man called one day and said, CD. They called me CD. Oh, you're so bitter. You come in like some Cersei. And I thought, really? And then I realized that what I was everything I learned in literature, the sarcasm, the just being able to analyze and give info. And what's authentically me is that I'm usually very honest in my feedback. If I'm going to give you feedback, it's usually honest. It usually comes off, for a very long time, it was also unkind.
Yes.
So on air, it appeared unkind, and that was what he said, bitter. And I don't see it as unkind now. I just think it's the truth. But at the time, I read it as unkind, like, God, you're someone unkind there. Because you go on stage and I'm like, really? Why you'd wear that kind of outfit that you go stand up in front of people? You never have more clothes. And I'd say things like that. We watch Phantom of the Opera and Miss Kitty say, what you thought about it, CD? And I'm like, parents, let me be honest. You see, if you don't want punishing a pitney, send them. So we would have those kinds of comments. And I remember, I told you Jane Eyre was one of my favorite novels. For those who have not read Jane Eyre, it's a 19th century English classic. What about, it's what we call in literature, a Bildungsroman. So it means it's a growing up novel. It's a classic growing up novel. So it tracks the journey of a young girl from she was about 7 to adulthood. And so I liked Jane Eyre because it was sharing the story of this young girl growing up. But I didn't like Jane Eyre, the character, for a long time. She was too principled. There's a quote in it where she says, portrait of a governess, disconnected, poor and plain. And so sometimes that's what's in my head about teachers. That's what the profession pays you to be. Portrait of a governess, disconnected, poor and plain. Um, but the Jane Eyre in there was a little goody two shoes, and I never liked goody two shoes. I like rebels. Um,
Yes.
the things that Jane sacrificed and the decisions she made. And sometimes I actually feel like I'm Jane Eyre in my current Colleen. And I have to remind myself, that's not the girl you like, Colleen. Go back to the girl you like. Go back to the rebellious girl that you like. The young Jane, not the old Jane.
Okay.
Yeah, because Jane was very. There's a quote in Jane here that she said, is that they say, where do the wicked go when they die, Jane? And she responds, 7-year-old, they go to hell. And Mr. Brocklehurst says, and what must you do to go to heaven? And she looks at him and she said, I must keep in good health and not die. So what's laden in that is Jane rather is saying, I'm not a good girl. I'm a wicked girl because that is what they're telling me. So
Yeah.
to not go to hell, I'm just going to keep in good health and not die. And I thought it was such smart. So I think by now you know how much books mean to me. I
Yes.
really love reading. I love literature. I love what literature offers. It
Yes.
offers you a peek into a world that you sometimes will never go to. We
Never.
can't go back to what's in the past. But we also perhaps can't afford to go to everywhere in the world, but literature carries you there. But
Yes.
it also focuses on an aspect of humanity, how how characters develop in books is really how humans grow over time. And so it's a wonderful depiction. So you might not like Shakespeare, but Shakespeare is relevant today because of the themes and
Yes.
because of the constructed characters.
Yes.
So lit, music are perhaps my heartbeats,
And
more
and
than
I
any.
think I think that's why I and the I get along so well. I am the reading Ras. I love to read
Mm,
too. I also love music, you know what I mean, and music culture. Now I met the I at the Edna Manley College of the Performing Arts. Very militant, ballad. Big up Carice, who brought I to meet the eye. And can you just give us how did you reach Edna Manley,
mm.
and explain, because one of the things I and the I reason to is that Rastafari need an institution like a Edna Manley, where we can really harness and hone the performing arts and the creative industry, because so much of Rastafari are creative, or engage in some kind of way in the creative industry. And of course, it needs to be harnessed, and an institution like Edna Manley. Can you just give a little history on Edna and
Before I got
how
to
that reached
Edna.
here?
Oh.
Yes.
Fate, I think all the jobs that I've owned, I was at Bureau of Women's Affairs because Glenda Sims, who was director at the time, was my neighbor and thought that I spoke so well, I must be a good writer. So she invited me to apply for the communications there. And I kind of moved around in government comms. Again, it was my literature background that made me stronger than the average graduate of, say, media and communications. So I was at Heritage Trust at the time, the National Heritage Trust, as the director of communications. And Minister Grange invited me to ask my supervisor if them can lend me. Worst thing if you do. When Minister Grange says she borrow one staff, you now get her back. So she borrowed me because there was a lot of things happening. I think Bolt was coming. There was a homecoming for Bolt. But there was also this reggae month was going to be declared in 2008. So I got the call 2007. By 2008, the Governor General declared February as Reggae Month. And Minister would have these meetings, night meetings. We done the meeting at 11 o'clock and she just walk in and the meeting start all over again. I met Ibo Cooper, Charles Campbell, Junior Lincoln, Stephen Stewart, a lot of reggae music. I think that's the time I started really knowing people in the industry, and not just people who come to do an interview on radio and who I was doing like a small publicity work for. So yeah, because I was with the Reggae Industry Association, started having concerts at this wonderful place called the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. And I remember saying to Ibu, I really like it here. And it was a specific incident. I was recalled to go to the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management to coordinate Jamaicans coming back home after the Haitian earthquake, and to do like press releases and so forth going out. And there was a victim who was staying with me, and I went to Edna, and there was a girl, Sabrina. Brina was singing, and she made a song for this Haitian girl. And I remember saying to Ibu, I'd love to work here. And he laughed. And then we were out in Wikiwaki. I remember Ibu and I were standing out in Wikiwaki looking at the sea, and I said, I have no connections on bigger Edna. And he took out his phone and called the principal and said, I have one girl who just want to come at Edna. But she's an excellent marketer, because by then I was the director of marketing for the Jamaica Reggae Industry Association. Okay. And they invited me to a meeting. I went to the meeting with a full proposal. Prepared. There was no job though. At the time, there wasn't a job. So they said they would keep in touch if something opens up. And a few months later, I remember I was in hotline, my phone rang, and it was Edna. And they said that, they have a little project for 6 months. And I took it. During the 6 months, the job came up, and I applied for it and got the job. So that's how I landed at Edna. So Ibu was my champion. Ibu was my mentor. He was like my big brother. Everything that you can think of in somebody, just making sure Ibu was always interested in my children, Yes. So he was like the consummate godfather, grandfather kind of figure. And so my career at Edna, I really owe it to first Minister Grange calling me for that meeting, me being noticed by these brethren out of the music industry, working with Jaria, and then sighting up Edna and Ibo championing that, So yeah, Edna is, I think, one of the most important institutions in the Caribbean, definitely in Jamaica. If we're going to say that reggae is what it is for Jamaica, if we're going to say that reggae has built an ecosystem, and when we talk about ecosystem, it might sound like we're behaving right, and it really, an ecosystem is really all the players involved. So from the creatives, the artists, the producers, the engineers, the publishers, the publicists, the man who has sell the can on the roadside after a party, the man who has set up the stage, all of you make up an ecosystem. So it's a big system, it's a big network. It's not just who you see on stage that makes this industry. So I think if Jamaica really is going to say that a reggae put Jamaica on top, then Edna becomes the most important space for development. Alpha becomes one of the key spaces for development. So if it's like our goal, if reggae is our goal, then you have to mind that goal, And the way that we treat things, I was bad with plants before COVID. No, I love garden on my balcony. And it's because I've spent time with it. You water it and, just pour water upon it. You really study it and know what
Yes.
works for this plant might not necessarily work for that plant. And so for me, in the way that we have a track and field, there is a sports industry. I can
Yeah.
comfortably say there is a sports business that goes on from champs, and every picnic Jamaica learned to run because they see it from Merlin Otti days, from Arthur Wint days, that there is hope. You get scholarship to go foreign. We haven't really developed that for music. Every student is supposed to be introduced to at least one instrument, then you with a recorder from primary school. But most rural children, most inner city poor children can't really buy a recorder. No one is providing it. If it's a drum and bass culture, then why we don't have drum and bass everywhere? Thank God for the church.
Yes.
The church has been amazing with shaping musicians, because most musicians will tell you they came out of church. Most of Edna's students came out of a church system where they learn to play by ear, and then they come into this space and have to spend 5 years because they are learning theory at this stage. It's not taught. So for me, a national strategy ought to be investment in music or investment in the creative industries. In the same way, when I see a lot of older brethren who are in the UK were born like in the 50s, most of them are two things: electricians and plumbers, because at that time England was doing those things and that's what they wanted. So that's what they trained. And we don't need necessarily, the research institutions are always going to provide research, but the truth is that what we need are more of a polytechnic model where we're teaching people a skill. So so people are naturally talented. Them can sing, you can train the voice. They can't necessarily write, but you can train them to write, and they're naturally lyrical, just in the way Jamaican special. So there is a craft that you can teach and that is being taught. So Edna is doing its job in terms of preparing the musicians, the performers, the creatives. There are other institutions. I'm not at Edna now, I'm at UTech. And my dream is that UTech is offering something like audio engineering, because that is a lack in the industry. So when you look at the needs, and UTech is a STEM university, so how do you employ technology to advance industry is where, but that's my kind of big vision for, not a unique vision, because we talk about this with brethren in the industry all the time who have the same sightings.
Yes.
So music, if music is what feeds us, then we ought to feed it more.
And that was part of the mission of Jamaica Music Conference. And, the conference is coming forward. I keep saying that. So don't worry. And I big up IMC, what they're doing too, because it's not easy, and someone has to keep the torch of that education moving. So what I want to discuss though, but before I get there, when I met the eye, proper ballhead, you know what I mean? And when I say ballhead family, I mean there's no hair on the head, very militant, and maybe a little low fade, I can't remember.
It was a stand.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm trying to say to you, but what I can say is, when I turned 30, I had locks before. When I turned 30,
I never met that. I never met that version.
You never met that. At 30, I remember walking into a barber shop and trimming the locks, cutting the locks. I know trimming is a whole different word in UK and South Africa and those places. So no, I cut my hair and went to bald head. I started growing it back. And then one of my favorite persons in the world, one of my best friends, she had breast cancer. She came to live with me during chemo. And one day she screamed out in the bathroom and her hair was coming out. And that time me near to a fro, like me ready for me grow back.
Okay.
And I said to her, yeah man, we go cut with hair, So for me, that was just a kind of a solidarity. And then I liked it. I liked
Yes.
it a lot. And
Yes.
so I left it. I remember a brethren, one of my best brethren, sent me a message and he said, my hair started growing back because I think after a while I actually like hair growth and process
Yes.
in,
Yes.
in, in how the hair moves. It's interesting to see because I had a bald head. I can tell you the development of hair and no hair.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but I left my hair to grow and he sent me a message and he said, I really like the hair on your head because the bald head was beautiful, but it drew attention singularly to your face, to your head, and not your face, which is such a beautiful face.
Okay.
And it
Lyrics.
was, it, it was a thoughtful compliment,
Yes. Yes.
a very faint attempt at compliment in my world, but a
Yes.
thoughtful one.
I understand.
Um, and I remember thinking to myself, that's really when people notice you, when they notice those little things. He even
Yes.
noticed my gray hair, the
Yes.
sprinkling of grays, he mentioned it. And
Okay.
I smiled and I kind of liked that he liked it. And I started liking it more because I'm seeing
Okay.
a different, because how you hear is, I wish I had a picture we could show, but
Yes.
the manifestation, it's completely different.
You and you can send it, and I can edit it in because it's pre-recorded, so you can send me
I'll
some.
find one. I'll
Yes.
find one. I think one of my favorite pictures is Junior Gong was on stage singing and I had my eyes closed and a cameraman caught me with a bald
Okay.
head. Um,
Okay. Yeah, man. If you
so
can
so
find it.
yeah, it's so the bald head did give a different kind of energy.
Yes.
I
Very,
also
very stern because you are very professional. Very, and you still had a warmness. Don't
It
get me
was
wrong.
also very womanist. It
Yes.
was
Yes.
also it at that time when I first went bald at 30. I think
Yeah.
I was very gender sensitive.
Yes.
I say womanist because I received the womanist notion and not the feminist, because feminist for me is a white woman thing. I
Yes.
think the black woman's experience is completely different. So the notion of womanist is the black woman experience is unique, coming out of a history of enslavement. And so the idea that hair make you pretty, when you grow up a country, them tell you, say your hair are your beauty. Remember, my hair was long. And them used to tell me grandmother, say, if she cut me hair a little bit, I will put on weight because the hair has sucked me out. So country people have all of these ideas that they genuinely believe in. So when I first bald my head, and
Yeah.
it wasn't a bald, I went like
Yes.
into a little funky cut. It
Yes.
was because I wanted to say to the world, see me, I don't. This is me. This is raw
Yes.
me.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
me in my most natural state. Because I don't think when a woman's hair is natural, when it's low, it really is like you have to pay attention to everything else. If you're gonna say hair is our beauty, which is the traditional thing to say. Um, so
You.
yeah, so I don't accept the notion that it made me stern,
You don't
because it
accept.
also made me cute. I
Yeah.
think I think my natural demeanor is stern.
Yes. Okay.
Um,
Okay. Because I
and
didn't know the eye before, so I'm
no man,
just
that's fine.
speaking my impression.
No
And you
man,
still
my
had a
natural
warmness.
self is
Yeah, you still
is
had a
is
warmness. You weren't cold, but you could see this is a no nonsense person. That was
no
the
nonsense,
impression.
not cold. I'm so warm you wouldn't even imagine how warm I am.
So, what was your first impression when we met? When you saw? Do you remember that meeting?
Can't tell you on air. We can't tell you live. You can ask Joan, because I did say what my first impression was. But really and truly, it was a different type of Rastaman, that's in the everyday space, very focused. Um, One thing I love about Rasta is their ability to just live in a kind of world that's not real. It's almost like they're floating um, in another world as kings. And sometimes when I think them in the real world, it's like they live in a utopia. So when I met you, I thought that you were living in a real world. You were very conscious of what was happening around you. It also made me know saying, oh, Rastaman, they're foreign too. Living the same way the one them out here I live. And because my friends will trouble me, they will be like, they will say, if a bald man look my way, the first thing my friends are gonna say, you better go grow your hair. So there's always this joke from I was much, much younger, even in my 20s, where they would be like, grow your hair, master, because you're not looking. And really it is, I don't know, perhaps it is just that, but it's very hard to choose a partner who is very different from you.
Yes.
The partner has to be Pan-African in consciousness. What you put in your body has to be a particular. The way you care about people must be a particular way. So it's easier for like people who have similar ways or similar practice to you.
Okay.
And we don't often say it aloud, but I do find Rasta men sexy.
Okay.
I also love how they love, because I like to be fed. And I think one of the first things I've observed with Rastaman is the Rastaman really is into making meal.
Yes.
In a different kind of way that the corporate man perhaps don't have the time to. So the bubbling is very attractive to me because I like to be taken care of that way.
Yes.
So yeah, there are things I don't like at all. And most times people will come and tell me that they don't like that one thing, and I will look at them and acknowledge it. Because me can't say it because me know how me feel about them, about Rastafari in general.
Yes.
But when it's the onlooker offering a kind of critique of how people live,
Yes.
I get riled. That's when the serious Colleen come out, and I'm like, you're presumptuous.
Yes. So, but talk about that transition. I mean, it was always kind of there, but it's become more central in your tradition. How are you reconciling the divinity of His Majesty, all of these central tenets of Rastafari? Because you have kind of surrounded yourself now. Since we met, you are more industry focused, and I have seen the shift.
No, I'm more community focused.
Yes. So how does that rise?
In the way that I think reggae was a gift to Jamaica, I think Rastafari was a gift to the Caribbean in terms of the only, and I don't even like to call it religion, but let's say it's like the only religion that rose up post-slavery, post-colonial offering. And where does it come from? It comes from the underbelly of Jamaica, the rejects, people living on the edge, people having nowhere to live, but somehow reading enough to question the Western Bible that we got. So I've always had a lot of respect for that questioning. I also believe if God made us in His own likeness, then I'm black, so He must be too. So the notion of a black God was always appealing, even while I was in church reading the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. So, and then I can't remember who gifted me the first readings of His Majesty. Plus, I like to research.
Yes.
And one of my favorite quotes, and I have to get it right, so I need to find it so I can read it, is actually a quote from His Majesty. And what I do think is that he was a wise man. I think recently I was in a conversation where somebody said, I think it may have been Jake Homiak, who said, Brother Jake said something about, in the way the Rasta's presumption is that they made a God. And there was somebody else in this space who said the notion that we make our gods, because that's really what it is. Somebody made who we call Jesus Christ and the Almighty. And so the people who are now the Orishas are practicing. Africans are always making God for a very long time. And so Rastafari making their own God is not new. And so even when we think about, so for me, I do think that there is a divinity. I think it manifested for a set of people in this way. And I always have a little bit of conflict. I find Ethiopian Orthodox, that's a whole conversation I want to dissect one day with somebody so I have a better understanding.
Yes, yes, yes.
But so I'm not walking around at any day to tell you that Selassie the God or the Rastafari is, but I do know there is something that is extremely spiritual in the acknowledgement. Um, I do feel very comfortable in the community. It's very equal for me. I what I love Harambe Hall that is kept. It's monthly, I think.
Yes, yes. It may
Yeah.
switch to bi-monthly, but it's right now it's
So,
monthly.
so, so when you go to whether it's a Bingi, the Harambe Hall that RMO now host, there is something that you see there that is a warm. And again, like I say, I grew up Adventist and I was at AY every Saturday evening because you church finished, divine hour finished, but you stayed back at church and you had Adventist youth. So there was a youth forum. I actually think the Adventist has the best model for maintaining community and tradition. So the Harambe Hall for Rastafari is that for me. It is an opportunity to children to hang out with other Rastafari children. It's an opportunity for Rastafari families to connect with each other. It's an opportunity to buy clothes that is African in its orientation. It's an opportunity to buy food that's organically grown. So all of that for me is not new because I'm coming from an Adventist home. And I never considered myself Rasta. I tell you that all the time. Everybody who know me will say, and people laugh. Carice is one who will say, me no know she talk about she a Rasta. She more Rasta than a lot of people. And I think it really is a levity. It really is by how you live. And the Rastafari creed of, I think I live that every day. I'm very comfortable giving back. I'm comfortable giving even when I'm not being given because I think it comes forward in a different kind of way. And in the same way, I'd say to a Christian, don't tell me about your Jesus, just live and show me what it is. I think for me, Rastafari offers that. It offers that in how they treat each other. And let us not ignore the fact that if you want bingy money, a bonfire. So there are times when I'm in spaces where it look like there's enough war and factions, and I keep saying, why not going like a Rasta one have these kinds of separatist views? Every church have that. Every school have that. Every government institution have people with differing views, and we just have to know. So, Kwasi, one of the things, and I've always said it to you when people say, what is Rastafari? It's a question, I think it's a very personal journey. I really think that it is a lonely road too. Lonely for some because family ignore you. My family, them just like, I will Rasta girl that and done. Like, there's no there's no issue of it's only when I say greetings in church, if I go home for a funeral or so, I see a little nervous things, so it's just a greeting in His Majesty's name or something. But it's often to provoke thought. But I don't do it because I believe in respecting everybody and what everybody's views are.
Yes, yes.
So and the truth is sometimes you meet that one person who kind of change your life's perspective because they just appeared at the time when you're also searching and
Yes.
offered you. And so that was my experience. I met somebody who is still a very good friend of mine who kind of gave me a different insight into Rastafari, kind of introduced me to the space of Rastafari in a more intimate way. Intimate meaning I was now meeting Naibingi Council I was meeting. I'm part of a Rastafari school, SOSA crew, as you know, School of Sacrament, Rastafari University. And I tell them all the time I'm their first student. I've learned so much from just being in that space. I have met some wonderful people from being in that space. Sister Waleti is like a big sister for me.
Yes.
And these are people who I met during COVID online. And so I knew the connection was real and strong because I felt like I knew a lot of people online. Yeah, and it's my community. Comfortably, I tell everybody that's my community. I'm unapologetic about claiming that space because I think when I walk into my place of work, I'm also defined by that. And it's just something that you have to accept that this is who you are. And
Yes.
however people want to see it, I'm comfortable because in the community too, people say all sorts of things.
Yeah, and I want to let people know that when you were trotting as a ballad, you would always have the African gowns. You're Pan African, Afrocentric. You know what I mean? So that's always been part of your personal brand. Now, growing locks and coming up, you can't
I
escape
think
that.
the only difference is really my hair, really.
Yes,
I'm not dressed any
yes,
differently
yes,
from what
yes,
I've been accustomed. Remember, my
exactly.
grandmother who used to throw shawl over my back if my back a show, you know. So, but the truth is that I don't believe in the kind of judgment.
Yes,
I think we should honor the sacred spaces within Rastafari when it comes to dress. If you're
yes,
going into this space, into a bingy space, then honor it by dressing appropriately. But I'm
yes,
not ever going to say that Sister in there is not Rastafari because of how she carries herself on a daily basis. I
yes,
just think you should honor this space and feel comfortable in yourself because that's really what matters. Where
yes.
you out there, so I think really is unimportant, is how I.
Unity, yeah, unity does not mean uniformity. I keep saying that, and we have to make room for all different trads. You know what I mean? As long as we know His Majesty is the central pillar, Empress Menen is the central pillar, because we have to have a standard. And I think they embody that standard in terms of excellence, diligence, dependability, discipline, all of these things. So, in time, your relationship to the divinity of His Majesty, I think, will evolve as
If
they
it
are,
should.
if it should. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so I wanted to say this when it comes to certain Rastafari traditions. I
Hmm.
hate to see traditions die.
Yes,
And even though Rastafari manifests itself in different ways now, that's why we have to be grateful for this program, grateful for research being done by people in academia. Because sometimes when I look around, you wonder, will children 100 years later know what it was, where it's
yes,
coming from? So Mama Fire rest her soul. Someone like Mama Fire kind of epitomize the traditional Rasta woman, um, even more so than Sister Mitzi, who is my Kingstonian Rasta woman for me.
yes,
Um, but it is Sister Waleti who is me say is the one up north, who is really a real Rasta woman.
yes,
So having these women who hold the tradition sacred, so that young women coming up can understand. You don't have to choose it, but this is what it is. I find is really important. Is really, really important. And so I will never dishonor this space in terms of turning up dressed a particular way, even if
yes,
I dress a particular way at a different occasion. I really feel strongly about that. And I think it's also important that we be mindful of what is it that we're going to carry. A lot of
yes,
history is carried in bodies, and just demonstrate that. We take students to the sacred spaces because we want them to see what it is. We want
yes,
them to meet real Rastafari, because it's not the pretty pretty that they're often seen.
exactly. And we'll talk a little bit more about Sosa Crew, but um, I want to get into the topic because I know you have your time. I told you we
It's
could
fine.
easily do 2 hours and fly through
I
it.
realize.
Yes. And we don't scratch the surface, because there's so much things that we can talk about. I probably have to bring you forward just to talk about the Sosa Crew summer camp and the different works that the I has
I
been
think there
doing.
may be better ones in Sosa Crew. Who you can have a Sosa Crew circle.
Yes, we can do that. Definitely, definitely. So, but what I would like to get to is our topic because I think that yeah,
Hmm.
it offer a lot of value. We have a lot of Rastafari creatives who watch the channel. A lot of us are trying to do whatever it is, product, service.
Mhm.
We have, and what I want to do is really get rid of this idea that you have to be struggling to be Rastafari, that we can be wealthy, we can live good, we can build, thriving enterprise. And to build a thriving enterprise, you have to have both PR and marketing. And I think we don't really overstand that as a community. And I want to kind of normalize this knowledge for our people so that it's not something that we look at as Babylon and this and that, because Majesty used
Mhm.
all of these things as a thriving businessman. Empress Menen was a thriving businesswoman who operated numerous enterprises. So this is part of our DNA as Rastafari people, and I want to get into this reason with someone like the I who, is very qualified to have this reasoning. So I want first just what is the difference between public relations and marketing, and why is it important for someone with a product or service to know what these things are?
All right. So I was saying, Kwasi, that on my screen is integrated marketing communications expert because we're no longer separating public relations, advertising, promotions as different areas of market, but an integrated approach.
Okay.
So, marketing in this regard, if you were to explain to somebody, is really the umbrella term that really looks on how you sell your product from, and there is a strategy. Um, Public relations once upon a time referred to free press. It's no longer free press. And it really is strategic communication with our publics.
Okay.
And that's really what public relations is. So public relations turns up in organizations in different kinds of ways. You could hear somebody is a corporate communications manager. That's PR. A publicist is doing PR. Public relations manager is the most common term. But these days, a public relations person is doing a little bit of everything as digital media has changed. There was a time when we were just using traditional media, that's the only thing. What was different is that traditional media was controlled by those who owned it. And so the public relations practitioner at the time had to build relationships. You had to build relationships to get your product out there. Nowadays, with digital media, with social media in particular, the artist is able to take information and just share it to its own publics without any help from anyone. But I wanted us to start the conversation by looking at how the basic thing for me with creatives is really understanding teams and management functions
Okay.
in your team, and don't think that you can be everything. A lot of times we're everything because of what the economics are, but the truth is ideally you want to get a team together who offer different things to the table. I focus very specifically on promoting the product, which is what we call publicity. And it's really the last of the four P's of marketing, promotion. So, when they're looking at the product is your
Mm-hmm.
first P. What is it I'm marketing? What is the product that you have as an artist?
Okay.
Define that first. So if you don't, and how do you come up with your product? You as a musician, let's go music because it's music we do. You want to write a good song. You want to get a good melody for the song. You want to find a good engineer to complete that project. And then you want to find a good publisher or a good publishing platform to send the music to. When that is done, you now have a product in hand. There are a couple of things. If you come to me and say that you want a publicist, I start from the scratch. Who are you? Who is the Jazz Match Kwasi? What drives you? What does your bio look like? So we can rewrite that together based on the questions you respond to. How does your what you present of yourself in your photos, does that represent what you say you are in your bios? So all of that for me is connected and not different. Have you done shows that you captured some videos of? So when we are putting your electronic press kit EPK together, you have all of those to present as self. So the product is really the core, is where we start from. The promotion side of it, where I have books all the time that I use. This one is This Business of Music. There is this one,
Hold on, I was
music.
looking for my copy.
This one is Music Management, Marketing and PR. Or you have This Business of Music, and you should, because even if you are an artist who can afford services, it's good for you to know.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
good for you to know. So when somebody says they're a publicist, your visual branding is going to be something they're concerned about. Your brand is what people recognize by name or mark. And so what is that? And so the brand building is important, because remember at the beginning when I spoke about personal brand, I
Yes.
said your personal brand is your reputation. What do
Yes.
people say about you when you leave the room? What do people say about you when you leave the stage in the case of an artist? Do you turn up for your shows on time? Do you rehearse? Do you come dressed appropriately for the based on the event? All of that makes up what your brand is. That's going to make a difference if someone's going to hire you for an event locally or internationally. And then there are ways to get yourself known internationally versus locally. Traditional media was my core for a very long time, to the point where sometimes now, if I take on a job, I'm hiring people to do different parts of the work because they're better at it than me.
So
So,
explain what traditional media. When we say traditional media, what do we mean by that?
well, traditional media is what we know as radio, TV, and newspapers. It's what we started out with. So television, radio, newspaper. How does an artist engage the traditional media? Usually you start with a press release. That's a basic tool. The media houses now become the channel. So, so, so in the way that if I were in a classroom, I would say to students, in the same way you start with your product, but then we're going to move to goals and objectives. What are my goals for this year? It's an album I'm promoting. So what are the goals? How many do I want to sell? What markets do I want to reach? And then when you get into markets now, you're breaking down your target. Who are the people who will listen to my music? Are they 18 to 22? Are they 19 to 35? And when you determine your target, you're going to be able to determine your channels.
But
Where you
Miss Colleen, I want make music for everybody. I want bossy players. The music
but
is for
that's
every.
what but you can the truth is that you're making music for many. But the truth is, the other day I was in a conversation with Global, Berkeley Global and Reggae Online, and the truth is, when you look at Northeast, music is different. So it's going to be different in some parts of America in terms of your reception than it is in your communities like tri-state area that are higher in diaspora markets. So you're making music that you want to reach everybody, but the truth is it will not reach everybody in the same way that it won't connect with everybody. So it's when an artist is producing the song, you are looking at everybody, but it's some will come because we don't all like everything. And I'm very into data driven marketing. and
Yes.
data-driven marketing. But let me go to data-driven marketing after we finish with traditional media. So traditional media for me is really staying on top of who the media houses are in the different spaces. So I have a media list with traditional media in Jamaica. These are the TV stations, these are the radio stations, these are the newspapers. The same thing for the Caribbean, the same thing for America, the same thing for UK and Europe. And now I'm trying to build an African media list because I think that's a whole different conversation we could
Yes.
have about the ecosystem potential there. But so you create a media list. Your media list is your biggest tool, is the PR manager's tool. You have your media list, but the media list is not just saying who these people are. Who are the people working at what time of day? So I'm a little pedantic. So I go as far as to tell you, if a $60,000 you have to spend, let's spend it wisely. Ron Mushet is top of the day at this time. So I'm able to break down for you based on the all media survey reports that tell you who is leading. But outside of who is on top, you have to also look on who's the audience for the respective media houses. So when we look at TVJ versus CVM, one look like 70%, one is at 30. If you had a choice to make, who would you choose? So you're going to choose based on their own numbers and statistics, but you also want to choose based on who their audiences are.
Audiences.
Where are they?
Who are you making the product for? And this is why I say that, because I advise clients all the time. Yes, you want to please everybody, but find out, make music for somebody with in mind, so you can target.
That's why there's a way of target marketing. So
Exactly.
in marketing, it is target marketing, and you're being very specific because it's beyond their age. It's also where they are in the world.
Yes.
Social media has offered us a really wonderful way of getting data in the back end to make
Yes.
the right decisions. So you mine the data from your social. When you go on Facebook or IG, you're able, as the owner of the space, to see where your people. You may have, let's say you have 30,000 followers. Of the 30,000, you may have 5,000 in North America. You may have another 10 in Africa, probably Kenya to be specific. So it breaks it down for you. It even gives you a gender disaggregated data. So it tells you how many male versus female. What are you doing with that information as artists? Use it. So if most of your artists, there's a particular artist I worked with, and when I went in his back end, I noticed that his biggest audience was in one country, Kenya. So it means therefore that if your biggest audience is in Kenya, you figure have show though. Because
Yes.
people love you this already. But it goes further than just telling you the where. It also tells you the who. So you know, what's at the start of the show, you said that you have 75% males. That was
Yes.
significant for me. So if you're making Lion's Voice t-shirts, if you're making 100 shirts, then 75 of them, the majority of your shirts are male shirts with round neck. The
Yes.
little sexy ones, but the female ones are minor because your female audience is not that strong. So them now go wear a lion.
Yes.
You,
Yes.
you know, so the data analytics is helping you to drive your merch. It's driving where you go for tour. It's driving where you boost post to. So all of that now. So when I say integrated, you're managing traditional on the ground, sending off a press release, scheduling some interviews, hitting up some DJs and asking them to play the songs, going in the streets at Weddy Weddy or wherever and getting the DJ to play the song so the street people are learning it too. But at the same time, what you control is the social media. And when I
Yes.
say control, you're not just posting, but you're also able to engage. People are responding to you and you can respond back to them. That is what is special about
Yeah,
social
and
media.
how important, because a lot of artists, they only pop out when they have a product, and what I've been saying, and you can give me your philosophy, is that in this modern era, you really have to build community and maintain community. It's not enough anymore for artists to just come out when they have a release and then expect. And I think if we look at the sales of Jamaican artists, which are very sobering. I would use the word sobering. You know what I mean? When we look at our biggest artists, and we know this person have millions of fans around the world, and they may sell 500 copies in the first week of release. You know what I mean? It don't match, and we know that this is a massive star. And I propose part of it is because they have not managed their creative ecosystem in a way that is going to engender that loyalty from their loyal fan base. How do you view, some of the numbers that were produced? Because most of the industry doesn't take us serious in Jamaica because of our sales. But how do you look at this? What do you think is the root of some of these challenges that we face?
I think the root is really what we're making. If we look at who is selling, Bob is still selling.
Yes.
What are the messages that are still connecting to people? And sometimes it's sheer luck too, some people just get out in the gates and you make it big. So a lot of times when I talk about, or when I think, I do more thinking about industry than I say. But when I think about the industry, is it really a successful industry, or you have some successful artists? We have to ask ourselves the hard questions and just face it.
Yes.
Because Sean Paul big, Shaggy big.
Yes.
Who else really that big in a dance hall? And we could go in all of the
Junior Gang, Shaggy, Sean Paul. Those are the three.
Junior carries also the gang name. He's a Marley. So they are received in different parts, and be mindful that others are making the whole appropriation issue is good and bad, but people are using reggae elsewhere, and that's cutting into our markets.
Yes.
For me, the question I thought we were going to at the time, I thought of some C's. I went to CC, so I'm into C's.
Yes,
consistent. For communication, for me, it has to be consistent. It has to be clear, and it has to connect.
Yes.
So we can't just promote when we have the album out and ready. You have to always be feeding your fans with something. Keep them engaged. People will forget you if you disappear.
That is it.
So,
especially in the modern market.
So I know people love Chronix, because Chronix kind of disappeared from the scene, but he's still talked about. But why is he talked about? We still think that Chronix should have gotten the Grammys because the music was so good. So he has the product.
Yes.
He not necessarily have the charisma like a Shaggy, but he has the product, and he's not an idiot. He's very articulate.
Timeless classics. He has a catalog of timeless classics. He can step out on the road right now and don't miss a beat.
So yeah, and it's true. And when we look at artists, the timeless music also is not necessarily. If you look at the US, we have to study markets. Is really what I'm trying to get at. That you have to study the market, and sometimes we have to also find new markets. There was a time when a stage show run things, that's where artists make the most money from. And then with streaming platforms, you're making money from that too. But if people are not purchasing on the streaming platforms for many reasons, people are not buying as many vinyls, then you still have to push for the tours, look for a new market. So if you're going to go to the US, the Northeast, then so they're not paying no mind, because for some reason them now into the real reggae musicians them there. So don't go there. Don't waste your time and have less than 100 people turn up at one show. Find the fair, find the connection right now, because that is really what it is. So when you hear that stadium being full, there are stories that shaped around. So perhaps if Buju, I dare say, did not go to prison, he might not have sold out the stadiums he's been selling out. No,
True.
Buju has a story, and they've really weaved this story. Big up yourself, Ronnie. They've really weaved those stories
Yes,
well.
big up Ronnie,
And
of course.
Buju also is charismatic. Buju, and don't forget how important image is. He's nice and tall and gorgeous locks, pretty smile. But you know if you work it. In the same way Obama knew how to work it, artists have, they know it's really something you do that you must charm. Sometimes they're tired. You come off stage, you're tired, but you still have to work your fan club.
Yes.
In the way you, so the way you work your fans when you come off a stage and people want signature and they want to take a picture with you, work them on social, keep it going. What are the things that you can do to engage? Tell them to send in, and I've seen Taros does it beautifully. When Taros sang them, I come out Taros running the road. He might make you send in your song them, and he's playing them and him bigging up, you're tagging him. So all of those things drive engagement, and engagement is important because people are loving you more and they're going to come and see you.
It's a lot of work. I
It
want,
is a lot of work, and it is
yeah.
a whole study, and every day something new comes up and you have to go back to the drawing board. Even as a publicist, you have to be thinking, okay, so that is no longer working. What can I do now? So I'm here thinking, I said I had a full like on a Sunday. In reggae month, I would have a full day in reggae month. And I'm like, where am I going to go? Why am I going to go to Harry J's studio? Because Harry J has really switched around what they do and how they do it. They're making it a little sexier. So studio now you can have couch series and you go in and you chill. And artists are able to invite people to an intimate party. So all of those things are giving us ideas on how to connect better with our audiences, because that's really what marketing is,
Yes.
connecting your product with your audience. And there is a lot of emotional marketing going on. People want to know that you're feeling in the same way that lyrics. The other day, somebody said something, it might have been Jelani at a Bob Marley session, that Bob was a good listener. And it perhaps was the most profound thing in his entire beautiful presentation. That Bob was a good listener, because what he's saying to you is that Bob Marley connected with the people enough to say what the people couldn't say in songs.
Yes.
And that's what made it connect. So when you think of the product, think about the people. Think about the same audience.
And
Start
stick up just to talk about Bob Marley. What I realized growing up in the diaspora, Bob really captured, because a lot of his songs are just Jamaica proverbs. He would just sing the proverbs, and he's really captured the essence of the Jamaican experience, from that time period, which I think is why his music is so timeless. All of those rural sayings, the little, stories telling that he would do was really emblematic of what Jamaica is. And I play Bob Marley for the cultural enrichment of my children. I just beat it into them, because I believe in cultural programming. When they wake up in the morning, they're hearing reggae music, so that they have that soaking of them, when they're going out amongst their American friends and thing. I do that. So it's very important as artists, the product, and trying to connect with the people. As the sister said, we're going to seal up shortly because we're gone into the 2-hour mark, and I want to be respectful, but this is just opening up a true conversation. This is my sister, and so she'll be here, and I want to do this more regularly. We're getting ready to start a show called the Creative Culture Show, where we're going to just go more into the creative side of I&I brand, because
and Kwasi, if I may say, I host Lounge Lime for Reggae
yes,
Online. Reggae Online is a platform, an educational platform for all things reggae.
yeah,
So if I will share with you whenever we're having any kind of workshops in PR, marketing, or songwriting. There was a brief intro last week, a few weeks ago, for Reggae Month, where they were sharing, in a songwriting session. So there are opportunities that people can just take. It's almost like when I tell you what to do, I'm losing a job as a publicist. I don't think so. I
Yes.
think the more you understand about the craft, the better client you become, because
I,
you will also be able to work with me. So the basic things I say to an artist as we wrap is structure a good bio, invest in a good photo shoot, invest in having someone capture you while you're in performance so that you are really creating your own EPK in a way that's easy and an easy reference. In America, sometimes they ask you for an ad mat, which is really your picture, the way you want to be presented on a poster. It's good to have that so that you're just sending it to the promoters so that they use the right picture instead of drawing something where look like no more. So those basic things, and maintain your social media platforms. Commit to doing a 3 times a week engagement and making sure that what you say you are is what is being presented there, because that's really, really what is important. And I always say your network determines your net worth. So
mm,
do not think as an artist you can just not support other artists, not support industry. Just turn up sometimes. That's all it's required of you. Show up at spaces. Sometimes you all get the mic. So if you're in Jamaica, show up at Dub Club. Let people see you. Let people see your personality shine. Show up at Reggae Month events. Show up at Harambe Hall. So there is a presence because you build a loyal following when they see that you are also interested in them. Um, and then there are, for me, for young people going into to publicity, be mindful that publicity is a lot about maintaining that same network that you have, building relationships and maintaining relationships with people, and just turning up as a true authentic human being, because people know if you're going to take up the phone just to call for a favor, then nobody's going to respond to you. You have to keep in touch with people consciously. As a publicist, you have to show up at events consciously. Sometimes I show up at an event and I just circle the room and then I leave, because if I were to stay, I'm going to get tired. But at least people know that you are present, and that's really all it is. PR is presence.
one of the things I admire the eye in terms of relationship cultivation, maybe you need to have a course. The eye cultivate relationships extraordinary well, and that mean you don't hear from Sister Colleen. She would just call you for check up on your youth, them, your wife, what's going on. You're very conscientious of, and I always feel bad because I'm not the best. I'm good, I'm better than most. Don't get me wrong, I'm better than most, but I can do a lot better. Just those check-ins, you know what I mean, is so important. And you're right, this is a relationship business. The creative industry is a
It is.
relationship business. If you think you're going to progress without relationships in this business, you are delusional. Because yes, even if you go viral, you'll go viral, but you see, when the viral cure, you are out on the road with no, you're in the middle of the ocean with no lifeboat, because
Mhm.
people work with who they like, you know. At the end of the day, people are opening doors for people that they like or that they
And
get
it may.
along. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Kwasi. No, I was saying, let's be conscious too that it may just be a particular personality. You have people with PR personality. Malcolm
Yes.
Gladwell has a book, Tipping Point, and he
Yes.
speaks about those people who have a gift of connection. So
Yes.
you call and you say, my cousin knows the prime minister. My cousin knows someone who knows the prime minister. You call me, I'm gonna say, I can call the prime minister for you. There are those people you call because they
Yes.
have the direct connect. That's their gift. So
That's
some
it.
of it is gift, but there are other things that can be cultivated. So, and it's basic. It's really just knowing who the people are. It could be an email Christmas time to say
Yes.
to these media houses that I'm thinking of you. How are you? The people who you connect with all the time. When you see them, you're warm. Um, would you like something to drink? So for me, it's really how we treat people. It can't be a fake thing where you put on because it's
Yes.
convenient. It is
Yes.
because that's really who you are. But it can be cultivated. I really do think it can be cultivated. It's conscious. That's why we have to
Um,
do this.
Relationship cultivation is a course the I can add to your repertoire. I would put make do an online course. Those soft skills, I
Mhm.
find a lot of people in the industry lack these soft skills and they languish because they don't have the soft skills and they don't know if you don't have these soft skills, you need to hire someone who does. You know,
Mhm.
that's the
Mhm.
workaround. But there's no going around having someone on your team that can interface with people and get things done on your behalf. So I really give thanks for the eye. It's a joy, as I said, to reason with the eye. This will be the first of many conversation that we will have on this platform. The eye has known I through different evolutions, and I'm now stepping into your arena of media. You know, as a building a media house, a Rastafari media house, not independent, non-aligned media. So this is one of the people I go and get consultation and
And the
insight.
miserable people who
Yeah,
cuss him. Can me cuss him now? I'm making fool, you know. We cuss enough.
and
He
and and I
doesn't
tell
carry
I
back. He
yeah,
doesn't
and
cuss
I
back.
no, no. And I tell people you need the fiery people around you. I get uncomfortable if I'm around too much people who tell me something nice I want to hear the truth so that we can balance. And this is one of the people I know I can go to. No matter what's happening, she's gonna give it to me straight. Ibo Cooper was like that to the late great Ibo. Cooper, I remember one time he called me out in the middle of a JMC live and said, "You know, I need to fix up your thing, you." And I said, "Okay." But he would not miss a
Oh,
JMC. You know, them man and miss them coming early. Them, you know what I mean? So he's put himself in a position, you know, it's love when you get in that fire. And Sister Colleen is one of them people to show up at your event early. She'll go and plan it and she will cuss you if you don't do what you're supposed to do. But she's there with you on the battlefield. So I really appreciate love, the eye strength over the years.
give
Many,
thanks.
many works and many works to come. Just give us some final sound to the Lion Pride family. Um, you know, leave us with that sound, and then, like I said, we'll work on a panel or something about Soso Crew because I think we need to talk about that work as well, and
That's
many other
basic.
things that the eye is doing. We don't talk about your work at UTech. You're now on staff at UTech teaching. So there's so much more. This is just scratching the surface, family. So we're gonna bring Sister Colleen forward, but just give us some final words on.
Um, well, I will start with where we kind of ended with music. That
Yes,
anybody in the industry now, a young artist in the industry, need to be very trend aware. What are the
yes,
trends in the industry that you must be aware of? There's increased focus on digital platforms, so be aware of what they are, how to use them. There is increased usage of data analytics, and there is value in that. Um, there's a rise of independence artists, by the way, so be mindful of that. And independence mean that you have to know a lot more because no record company not managing you. And then there is also the growth of influencer marketing and experiential marketing. So consider partnerships that align with your own ethos and get into that. What I would say to the Rastafari community is always to just stand strong in the faith. um, Build a community that is so strong that we can't break it down. It means that there has to be work done towards repatriation. We have to be advanced in the reparations conversations and be conscious of what that means for us. Um, support, if you're in Jamaica, I say go support Haile Selassie High School as much as you can to honor His Majesty, and to also have a space that perhaps we don't have to build a school from scratch, because that's what the Adventists have over anybody else. The schools, the hospitals, everything. So they have their own system. And I think when Babylon comes tumbling down, that's what we'll have to run to. And yes, outside of that, keep tuning into the Lion's Voice Network. Subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed and like, and I am sure to be tuning in always, even when I don't like the topics.
And this is one of my earliest subscribers when I called. She give me about 3 or 4 subscriptions. She got to her accounts them and subscribe. So that was under 100. So a long time Lion Pride here, member. And if you don't like the thing, just send me a text and let me know. I like that too.
And I just quickly say, Kosi, that I may be followed. I'm on Facebook as Coleen Douglas. Facebook is my favorite play space. I'm on IG and Twitter as CD Publicity. So please feel free to connect with me there. Me now give my number per air.
No.
But yeah, find me. You can find me through the Lion's Voice. Say, ask for the sistering. So if there's a king somewhere with a mansion and a lot of things, and you want to reach Kwasi so that him do the vetting, and then we talk.
And it's some serious vetting, because I don't feel like it's a run-on stage thing. No. So family, you've heard it here. We're opening the dialogue around marketing, PR. We're taking this very serious because I want to have an industrious Rastafari nation and family. Thriving creative ecosystem. This is our largest export currently, our creative output, and we need to put structures. The loosey-goosey era has to come to an end, and we are going to be part of the solution. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story, and this is the Lion's Voice. Lion Voice.
Well, Haile Selassie the first is the Almighty, and he has manifested himself in physical form and was born as Ras Tafari Enterprises. And he was crowned by his side with Empress Menen. So wait, nobody now big up the natural woman them, Mother Earth, mother of all the earth's children. Well, big up all the woman with the natural hair, natural body, natural skin care, natural breast, natural brown are wearing, as I got nothing fake will be there. Well, big up all the woman with the natural hair, natural body, natural skin care, natural breast, natural brown are wearing, as I got nothing fake will be there. Well, big up all the woman with the pretty black skin, and inna the ear you no join the bleaching, and inna the ear you proud of your melanin. Never giving you a fi try something. The Almighty I bless you with your shape, bless you with the smile where you put on your face, bless you with the wine where you got in your waist. Real African, look how she a move to the bass. Take time, slow wine now. Take time and slow wine now. Speed up, hand by your knee cup and speed up now. Della move. Skin smooth so, the stellar move then. Butterfly then, butterfly blessed by the most high. Now do the butterfly. Big up all the woman with the natural hair, natural body, natural skin care, natural breast, natural brown are wearing, as I got nothing fake will be here. Well, big up all the woman with the natural hair, natural body, natural skin care, natural breast, natural brown are wearing, as I got nothing fake will be here. Then tell the little black girl or here a troublemaker. Every weekend them gonna hairdresser. Tell her straight here I go make her feel better. Tell her Taylor Swift she a the real trendsetter. Take the little girl them sit her down pan cheer. Tell her that her naps it was her than a nightmare. Attack her roots with chemical warfare. Tell her relax the creamy cracker get prepared. Take the creamy crack then put it on her head top. Tell her don't move till the fire get hot. Tell her straight here I go put her pant up or leave it on too long. Now she burn up pants spot.